Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Yes, you can see the animation now had a bit of fluff to it, or flair to it. I used the algorithm again to basic animate the hair. I'm not gonna do this every time, just I felt like this time would be a good idea, or would be a fun idea to do it. I've done a new set of hair, as you can see. And one of the things I want to go into a bit more detail is the details, the detail of the detail, so to say. This hair got a few more loose strands and similar stuff that I added, and I wanted to go a bit into detail about that in just about 2 minutes on the video. Right now I'm working on the base shape. You can see I'm using the same thing as usual, the tube that I then form to have more detail, and with the extrusion just a bit more depth to it, the base depth. And what I try to do this time is I try to have less individual strands. So I just took 2 or 3 strands of each, or just 2 or 3 extrudes each hair strand, so to say, and I wanted to see if this worked better or worse, and I think it's actually not as good as the hair that has more strands. So on the main hair it works, but on the big tail on the back it does not. So the normal hair is fine. The hair that I'm currently working on is fine with this, but the main hair, the base, the main hair in the back needs a lot more of these extrusions, of these details in the body, because for some reason, the bump map that I used does not work as well as intended here. So yeah. One of the issues that I encountered with this is the bump map. By the way, the hair is fully rigged, as you have seen in the short, in the turntable on the beginning. So I actually took the time to rig this hair, which wasn't that much of an issue. Anyway, we are going into the detail of the strands right now, and for the strand I grabbed one of the lines. You will see this right about now, that I grab one of the lines or 2 of the lines. Sometimes I extrude them, which creates a new area around the hair. I grab this extruded part and then I extrude basically these faces downwards and outwards. There's a bit of jumping between the selection and the world coordinates here for the object. That's because extrusion goes always by object coordinates, but sometimes if I work on this, the world coordinates just work much better. No, the extrusion always works with the object coordinates, not the world coordinates. But yeah, I wanted to do this so I could see if this is a bit more, if this is better, if this is a bit more detailed, a bit more on the actual physical side of things. And not all of these strands are animated. So when I rigged this, I rigged the tail on the back, and the strands on the front and the side of the head are not rigged. They are static, so to say. I thought about rigging them, but giving each of them their own little bone with details just drives the whole model very, very into detail. So this is why I decided not to do that. I had a few minor issues with making the V-maps later on this, because some of the hair strands on the main head, or on the head, are not that easy to, or I couldn't cut them properly. Whenever I tried to, the whole hexagon crashed. So I had to, yeah, not do that. I had to basically give some of these a different map with the default UV maps that are in the program, which you actually, I don't think you see it, but yeah, it is kind of a thing that happened. Luckily not with the tail in the back, but that's another issue. Yeah, you can see that I gave her like a few additional just overall hair strands, free hair strands, just to give it a bit more detail, to give it a bit more realism. But in the end, yeah, one of the issues that I encountered was that I smoothed this down because I wanted to see if the hair overlapped everywhere, but it is actually way easier to not do that, to extrude the additional strands first, and then when you're done with that, smooth it down and then check all the overlaps on the head, and you can still edit all this. But yeah, I would recommend doing the extrusion first, and then in the end, when you're done with it, doing the smoothing, because now I'm trying to weld together all the points at the very end, and due to the smoothed down version, I missed a lot of these points basically. So I had to, later when I did the VMAP, I had to sometimes stop doing the VMAP and actually weld all the points together before I could finish the VMAP, because I couldn't properly cut this into pieces. Yeah, but this was an issue that I encountered and that I had to deal with, so that you don't have to do this welding first, extruding first, welding second, and smoothing at the very end when you're done, more or less. Maybe even after the UV maps. I'm not sure. Maybe it is easier doing the UV maps before you smooth it down, but that's hard to say. It's also hard to say. I mean, you can do the UV maps before you extrude these pieces, but then you have to probably most likely do the UV maps again, so this is not super recommended. But you can try to do the UV maps first and then hope that it is keeping together for the inevitable part of the UV maps. Yeah, I added a few extra strands on top of the head, so they wouldn't just be there on the side of the head. Again, I'm trying to go for a bit more realistic but still stylized version here. And yeah, I will also use this hair in the animation, so I will pick up the horse animation again, add a few minor details, so extend this a bit or change it a bit, change it up a bit, but ultimately I will work with the horse again in this animation this month, and I will do this sometime soon, obviously, because the month isn't that long anymore. We're already halfway through. But yeah, something I forgot is actually after this part there is a longer break because I imported the ornaments, but then I forgot to restart the recording. So yeah, I basically put a ring of chains around the hairband just for minor detail that is there, that is visible, without it having too much impact. Yeah, and then I went for the hair in the back, and you can see this has a lot less detail in the extrusion, so I should have extruded more. Yeah, as a reminder for you, extrude this more, give it more detail, because this is not nearly enough to actually give it good detail, especially on the top. Further down it is kind of okay, but especially on the very top when it comes out of the hair, it is way too smooth, way too basic to actually have good detail. Also, I thought about like giving these strands like give each strand a singular bone, but in the end I gave it a very, very simple bone structure with just like bones right down the hair. So it's basically one big mess with 7 or 8 different bones. And a few of these strands, very few of these strands that I added on the back hair have their own bone. So just some of these strands are their own thing. I thought about also doing all of them, but that would really more or less give a lot of or add a lot of work. It's possible, definitely, but it's, I think, not really worth it. At least not at this point where I am right now. Maybe at some later point I will, because it adds to the overall structure, but not right now. And you can see again in the profile that the hair on the head works quite well, but the hair in the back is actually too simple to detail, so I actually might, I don't know, I always say that but I never do, I might touch up on it and try to add a few more details, but that will also mean redoing the UV maps, at least for the hair in the back, and this took quite some time, which I didn't record, so there's no UV mapping in this video, and we're almost at the end anyway. So yeah, I did basically the two big pieces in the back, added a few strands to each, and then I did the UV mapping. Then I put this over to their studio and rigged it before I did the renders. Even though the render looks quite weird with the hair as it is, yeah, but then I rendered, then I rigged it, and then I did the renders. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one.